Okay. So before we dive right into the text, I just want to take a moment, check in, and see if anyone had any questions or comments regarding the practice. If you're new, we give teachings every Wednesday, and every single day there's a ongoing daily practice. So we've been studying our text here, How to Practice by His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama. And in our community, every single day we recorded a daily practice, meditate together, and we have been working on integrating these into our lives. So if anyone who has been doing that has any questions or anything they'd like to share, we can check into that. Looks like, oh, that was just another message. So, and the two ways that you can participate, one is you can raise your hand, not physically, but next to your name. You can raise your hand, and then I'll see there's a hand raised, and we can invite you to speak and just ask a question. Or at the very bottom here, there's a Q&A, so you can type in a question. So whichever way you're more comfortable with. And so if anything comes up, either during the teaching or something you want to ask, feel free to use either of those options. Okay, but it looks like everybody's good at the moment. Oh, we got a hand. Okay. So, all right, Carla, if you unmute, you're good to go.
So I've been practicing the specific practice we had this week of considering the needs of the larger group over my own, and a few things have come up.
Yeah.
Every time I do something like this, there's this sense of being overwhelmed by the just great amount of need and not knowing what will truly be beneficial.
Mm.
And then I kind of shrink back into just trying to take care of myself, because it just seems so overwhelming. And some of my experience has kind of borne this out, that I've tried to help others, but it didn't really seem to make a difference. And there's always kind of this sense that there's nothing I can do to help, because I can't really change somebody's karma for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just sort of that theme of not knowing how to help, being overwhelmed.
Right. Feeling powerless even.
Yes.
Yes. So a very good point to bring up, and I'm sure others have felt the same. It's very common when we start to reflect upon the suffering of others, and we can recognize it seems like there's so much, and what could I do? And so here it's so critical to have an understanding of the long game, and to recognize that how can I be helpful, right? So that's our big point. How can I be helpful? Well, I'm not going to be helpful if I'm overwhelmed. I'm not going to be helpful if I'm, self-critical, or I can be helpful if I am cultivating my higher potentials, engaging my practice. And if we start to understand that if I develop some compassion, there's more compassion in the world right now. If I develop some compassion, there's more compassion in the world right now. It's already shifted. And that utilizing the struggles that we see in our lives and the lives of others, to cultivate compassion, wisdom, and understanding. Well, now I'm cultivating this path of awakening. And a little earlier in the text, His Holiness made the point, if I'm really going to make a difference, the best way for me to make a difference is wake up, become enlightened, be a Buddha. I can help a lot more people. And so the long game, as opposed to, a short-term gain that, in some ways, it seems like there's, for example, all this current struggle in the United States, and so here's this immediate problem, and seems challenging. However, we've had challenges like this, actually much worse, throughout our history, And there's been an ebb and a flow. There's been, great efforts to, have more resources for people, and a slow process of people of different cultures and races, having tolerance, and even the integration of schools and so forth. That these things are going on all the time, and that there's this evolution actually of incredible progress that gets made in the long term. And so it's easy to get caught up in the immediate bubble. And some people even think, wow, never been so much strife in this country, when in fact, that's not at all the case. I'm a history teacher, among other things. But you could even marry outside of your race in this country, not that long ago. And the types of violence and death and so forth, and even in the world. So yeah, it's challenging, and there are difficult things that are happening, and there's an incredible amount of suffering. But also there's an incredible amount of improvement. And here we are having a talk on Dharma, on compassion, with teachings from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a Tibetan who's come out of Tibet. And there is a Center for Ethics and Transformative Values at MIT. There's a Center for Altruism and Compassion at Stanford University, Wisconsin University, studying these same things. There's Dharma centers, there's interfaith gatherings, there's, if you really look at the trajectory of humanity, of compassion, of the incredible helping that goes on. And I like to remind people of Mr. Rogers. When we look at the tragedy, look at all the helpers, and you see everybody coming to help. And so in our immediate moment, things seem much bigger than they are. And it's easy to be overwhelmed by that. But if we can step back and kind of look at this bigger picture of one of the things that you're doing right now that makes a huge difference is, taking care of yourself so that you can have something to offer, taking care to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, engaging in a practice that recognizes the value of others, and getting away from a self-centeredness. These are these little steps that are starting to unwrap this web of suffering. And so all these things are actually making a much greater impact than an immediate thing. And so I like Mother Teresa a lot, never worry about numbers, help the one in front of you. And I found that to be incredibly helpful in my own life. So rather than feeling overwhelmed, start to recognize that what you think, say, and do is making a difference. And every time that you smile and have some love in your heart, an individual, whether it's at the market or down the street, and every time that we are demonstrating and acting out of love and kindness, there's more loving kindness in the world. And when we engage in our practices, they're not selfish. We're doing them for the benefit of all beings. Then we're actually recognizing that we're doing this incredible cultivation in a long-term way that will help all beings. And never underestimate the power of being a good example. Things that we say that have helped people and have been handed down, and kindnesses that we have shown. All these things make a big difference. So big picture often will provide us a little more accuracy. What's the idea? You can't see the forest through the trees sometimes. And so zooming out and recognizing, here's a path, and here's how things are. My opportunity to help. And it starts with me taking care of myself and engaging in practices to really understand myself and understand my desire to be a benefit to others, and meaning and purpose in this life. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, take the edge off the overwhelm there.
Yeah, thank you. The last few mornings I practiced this. It did occur to me that just practicing was helpful. it's I guess you have to kind of overcome that cultural definition of helping. This is different than what we normally consider to be helping somebody.
Right.
So I have to keep that, that conditioning in mind, that this is a different way of helping than that we're accustomed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is it empowers those other physical actions that people do. And yeah, we can't do it all, but everyone, there's a much bigger karma that plays out, and we're much more intertwined with all beings. And so even our shopping, what's our shopping habits? What are we buying? And is it supportive of our community? And there's so much that we do that that can be helping, that has a ripples that we can't see, that can be very tangible ultimately. So starting to just be more aware. And I think one of the things is my motivation. So even when I often use this example, if I'm giving a tip, to a server or something, going to pick up takeout these days, or, that tip could be, what's the percent? It's takeout, I'm not eating in, all these sort of transactional things I could have in my mind. Or it could just be, I really want to support my community. It could be a motivation that I hope, this helps them get through college. It could be this helps them, feed their kids. And so what we do, if we do it with that motivation, that's palpable. And so those things are other ways that we really can make a difference, because it's doing two things. It's bringing a difference to that interaction, but it's also ripening our mind in a new and quite potent way, where we'll be able to be a lot more helpful in a lot more ways.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Okay. Roxana, I think you're up.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you know the story about the person walking along the beach and they throw the starfish into the ocean?
You want to tell a story?
Do you know it?
It sounds vaguely familiar. I don't know it right with those few
Okay,
words.
well, there's a person, there are hundreds of starfish along the edge of the water. And there's a person walking along the beach and throwing the starfish back into the ocean. And somebody approaches them and says, "Why are you doing this? There's so many starfish. There's no way that you can throw all these starfish back into the ocean." And the person who's tossing the starfish says, "Well, I may not be able to toss all of them into the ocean, but it's really important to this starfish that I throw it in the ocean."
Mm.
That's not exactly how it goes, but
it's the message, right?
the idea, yeah. It's important to this starfish. I can't do all of it, but I can do a lot of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Roxanne. It's an important message for all of us. Okay. All right. So for those of you who maybe weren't here last week, actually, I can put the text up on the screen here. That way everybody can see it in case you don't have the book. We engaged in this practice, and it was starting to really recognize the value of others. It's this practice of sort of equalizing, exchanging self for others, noting that so much of our own suffering is actually coming from our own selfish, self-cherishing attitude, and how much freedom and opportunity there is in getting out of that self-cherishing, self-grasping, how much suffering comes along with just me and mine instead of we and ours. And so there was this practice this last week, and that's what Carla had brought up. And with that, we get to shift out of ourselves and see this value. and then we can start aspiring, right? We get in this, how can we help? And so we can develop these qualities within ourselves. Some people would say develop them, some people would say discover them. In other words, we already have them, but they're obscured. They're obscured with a lot of self-centeredness, a lot of misperception. And so this journey of Dharma is a journey of removing the obscurations that allow us to recognize our own Buddha nature. And we have these habits and tendencies, and I feel very solid and real. I'm the most important person to me in the world. And that creates this grasping and attachment and fear and worry and anxiety, instead of having a more accurate view of who we actually are, our nature, our interdependent nature, and the malleability of feelings and thoughts, and the habits and tendencies that show up aren't permanent, and they're not who I am, and that I am really becoming in every moment, and my interactions are very interdependent, intertwined with all others, and how I experience the phenomena, others, the world I live in, the events I participate in, is always through this lens that's very unique to me, based on habits and karma and tendencies. And out of that, trying to get the world set up to give me pleasure, and ultimately that creates quite a bit of suffering. And so the unraveling of that is to recognize our interdependence with others, our connection with others. And we've already worked quite a bit at recognizing all these things. And so I was just doing a quick summary for those who might be new here. And then on this journey of recognizing I don't need to suffer, that's just arising out of misperception. Others are suffering. Boy, they're suffering. We can see them suffer. They're suffering with their attachments, their anger, their resentments, their jealousy. It's all so, real to them. And the harm that people do themselves and others. And so here we have this opportunity to recognize I suffer, they suffer. And, we did a whole couple weeks on Just Like Me. But now we get, what can I really do to make a difference? Which we were just talking about. I can cultivate these potentials within myself, or awaken these potentials within myself. And so this next section of the text is some of these key steps that we can engage in to start ripening those karmic potentials within ourselves. And so we're at Aspiring to Enlightenment. Chapter 6 here. Why seek enlightenment? Compassion is the key to achieving a deeper level of morality. Again, the foundation of all our growth, our morality. Yet how can we help others when we ourselves are beset by wrong attitudes without being in a better position ourselves? It is difficult for us to help others on a large scale. On the large scale we have been discussing. Boy, it's just what we've been talking about, right? For example, if you're going to help people who are illiterate, you have to be educated. Similarly, to help so many sentient beings, we must achieve Buddhahood, since a Buddha has all the qualities necessary to help them. Knowledge of all the techniques for spiritual development, and clairvoyant knowledge of their emotions, interests, dispositions, and so forth. When you are moved through the practice of compassion to feel concern for others, it is time for new values to take root. We prepare the ground of our mind for these new values by engaging in the ritual for aspiring to enlightenment. We prepare the ground of our mind. We condition it. We nurture it. You are already equipped with the basic qualities needed to attain complete enlightenment, the luminous and cognitive nature of your mind. Therefore, focus on the thought, I will attain unsurpassed, perfect enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings throughout limitless space. Nurture this intention until it is strong. The ritual for aspiring to altruistic enlightenment is very helpful in this process. So, really getting the sense that I suffer, they suffer, and I can really make a difference, a lot bigger difference if I cultivate these potentials, awaken the potentials that are within. He says we're already equipped. They're just obscured. And so these actions we often call conditioning, or sometimes watering the seeds, preparing for them to ripen, are these steps. And he's going to describe the 7 meritorious practices. This often is called a 7-limb practice, and we have it in our daily practice book, in the regular practice that you can download, part of these practices of a daily practice. Let me just get a sip of water here. Okay. This ritual, which should become part of your daily meditation begins with 7 steps followed by a special offering. These practices increase your force of merit, which in turn leads you more surely to transformation. Through these forms of devotion, you will intensify your commitment to compassion. As you see below, they all involve paying devotion to those special beings who teach compassion. And so these 7 steps, and you'll find this just common throughout Tibetan Buddhism, a way to really condition and ripen as we prepare even to engage in meditation and other practices. It's really conditioning our minds and cultivating merit. And so this idea of merit is really critical. We touched on it last week, but merit is, often people think of good karma. They think of virtuous activities, wholesome activities, loving kindness, compassion activities, good karma. We're cultivating merit. And so merit's not like keeping score. A lot of people get a little caught up. How much more merit do I get if I do this or that? But it is a way of engaging in practices that actually fertilize the potentials to awaken in ourselves. And so without that fertilizer, without that nurturing, we'll have these potentials that are just latent. So it's really conditioning for us. And so we want to get away from sort of the scorekeeping point and start to recognize that, those virtuous activities, even the desire to help others, as far as bring up, even the desire to feel overwhelmed and want to show up and want to do my best, very meritorious. And then there's, these activities that we can engage in that support the Dharma, that have kept it alive for these thousands of years, that allow for us to have these teachings and that support spiritual practitioners on the path. And there's so many who have done so much to maintain these precious teachings, to put them into practice, to have woken up, to show us the way. And this lineage has been handed down. And so, who can we support, and so that we can maintain, centers, since everything's on donation anyway, and sometimes we don't even have anything to offer, and might offer the ability to clean. I used to clean the bathroom at Dharma Center I grew up in. These activities that we can do that can support the practice of Dharma, even sharing what little we know with someone who might be suffering. So there's so much around merit, and merit connected to a spiritual path, merit connected to that desire of freeing all suffering beings. That's got a whole different level than just a good karmic action. This becomes a merit of potential of spiritual growth, and it has its own trajectory. It has its own potency, and it's the ones that water these seeds of awakening. And just basically good karma and negative karma is you don't have to be a practitioner or have any particular spiritual path to be a nice person, do virtuous things, and have good karmic results. But all those come and go. They're like little water droplets. They come and they go. Good events happen, terrible things happen. This is good, and that happens. And so, karmically, most people that are, vast majority of humans are not on a spiritual path there, but they're reaping the results of their activities, their habits, and their conditioning. And so not necessarily, cultivating a path of awakening, but maybe cultivating, some really wonderful, pleasurable events in their lives and a way of living that's pretty pleasant, but it won't last. The karma burns out, new karma ripens, and so forth. Whereas merit is much more than just that. It's connected to this journey that we're on. It's connected to my bodhicitta, my great compassion for all beings, my desire to awaken, to remove myself from suffering, from confusion. And so these sort of, he put the word devotional activities is bearing in mind these conditions that give me an opportunity to engage in this path. And in order for this to happen, all these incredible teachers that have spent 20 plus years in a cave and, do prostrations for countless hours and recite and memorize text and endure hardships and hunger and, some torture. And here we are to preserve, to where we can be sitting in a living room today and receiving the teachings of awakening hand down through these incredible masters, through their heroic efforts, so we can be here and receive a path of awakening and be of benefit to others. So it's much greater context here when we're thinking about merit. And so bringing that to mind, that rich state of gratitude, and is how we would engage in this. And first, I'll just read the way His Holiness is teaching it, and then we'll see what I may or may not add, because this is His Holiness teaching it. And he's written this in a specific way for us Westerners. So the first step is homage. Imagine Shakyamuni Buddha, that's a historical Buddha, surrounded by innumerable bodhisattvas, filling the sky in front of you. Pay homage with your body, speech, and mind. Put your palms together and feel intensely that you are respectfully taking refuge in the Buddhas and bodhisattvas. Say out loud, homage to Shakyamuni Buddha and to the bodhisattvas. And the idea here is to all of these Buddhas and bodhisattvas, they are a field of merit. If you think about a field where you grow crops, we're growing merit. They are all present for us to cultivate from these practices merit within a stream of our consciousness. So we have all these enlightened ones in front of us as a field of merit, and every activity here we're going to have an opportunity to either cultivate merit or purify negativities, and they are the presence for us to do that. And so it might be difficult to visualize a whole field, but there are very clear descriptions of them. You can look up merit field. But you can visualize the Buddha for ease and just note that they're all with him. They're all here. And then really bringing to mind, I'm prostrating with my body, speech, and mind. So with my body, visual, even physical prostrations. My speech, this is the speech, homage to Shakyamuni Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. Mind, I'm bringing to mind their incredible, immeasurable qualities, their efforts on behalf of all sentient beings. And really having that richness with our body, speech, and mind, and the words. And then offerings. Spread out offerings such as fruit or incense. Imagine everything that might be suitable to be offered, whether you own it or not, including your body, your resources, and your virtue. Then imagine offering these in their entirety to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so, really important to note that right here, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't need our virtue or our bananas. This is a practice to cultivate merit and a mind of generosity, a mind of non-attachment. This is one where we physically might do water bowl offerings. We might offer some fruit, some incense, some physical representation. And they're there to receive, and we visualize them receiving our gifts with great joy, recognizing our willingness to let go of the things that we cherish. And here we can visualize all the things that we cherish that we're attached to. Our virtuous activity, that one's pretty hard to give up. We give that up. Our resources, our body, let my body be of benefit to all beings. Let me offer this to the Dharma. Since we're using our imagination, there's no limit. So we can offer the things we really cherish. And it doesn't have to be, a lot of people think about money and things like that. What do you really cherish, And, it could be my time. I'd be offering that. And one of the things I'm really attached to, I actually find it really beneficial myself, is to offer my attachments, to offer my negativities, the things that I'm really attached to, some bad habits I don't want to let go of. And I offer those freely, if I can give those up for the benefit of others. So this is a really wonderful opportunity to cultivate a mind of non-attachment, of generosity. And so we visualize these offerings. And we visualize them receiving it with great joy. Not because they need any of it, but because they're really taking joy in us cultivating this generous mind of non-attachment and non-attachment. So this third one is got quite a bit to it, really, but incredibly powerful. And we'll read it first. Disclosing ill wills, often called confession. We have all been responsible for countless ill deeds of body, speech, and mind, motivated by the desire to do harm. In the spirit of full disclosure, develop a sense of regret for having done them, as if through those actions you had eaten poison. Like, just really this intelligent regret that these harmful activities is like poisoning myself. Generate, too, an intention to abstain from these actions in the future, as if to do otherwise might cost you your life. I mean, a fierce determination to say, I am going to do my best to avoid these activities. Think from the bottom of my heart, I disclose to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas the ill deeds that I have done. The main way to purify bad deeds is through regret. The greater your regret, the stronger your intention not to repeat them in the future. And so in our daily practice, we have at the end the nightly practice, bodhicitta, which is a purification practice with the 4 opponent powers. And 2 of them, that's His Holiness is getting to, 2 of them right off the bat, regret and resolve. And so these are really potent. And I've been taught we don't need to wait till doing a formal practice to develop regret and resolve. You can purify these things right away on the spot. Just said something I regret, resolve, maybe make an amends. Quicker the better. And here, with all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, just bringing to mind that there's activities I've done in my life that have, caused harm to myself and others. And if we can bring 1 or 2 to mind, it's really helpful to develop a strong regret. And regret's not shame. It's not I'm a bad person. All of this is done out of confusion. And so out of my confusion, I've engaged in these activities. But my goal was to try to be happy like everyone else in the confusion. And having a regret, seeing that it really damaged myself, it damaged others. It's not how I want to live. It creates this prison of samsara. It obscures my potential to really wake up and be a benefit to all beings. So really, diving in there with that and then cultivating this resolve that I'm going to do my best from this moment on. If you do the evening Vajrasattva, you'll see these 4 play out, and it's a really good practice to do every night. There's a short version of that with a little video that I have on there, again, in our daily practice. Young nudge, quite good. Admiration. From the depths of your heart, admire your own virtues, actions, and those of others. Take joy in the good things you have done in this lifetime. And focus on specific good deeds such as giving to charity. The fact that you have a human body in this lifetime and the opportunity to practice altruism is evidence of virtuous actions of past lives. So take joy in those virtues too, and think to yourself, I really did something good. We wouldn't have this rare and precious life if we hadn't cultivated an incredible amount of virtue and merit. We've been doing some good work to be here. There's a lot of other places we could be on a Wednesday night, right? Not so good. Also, take joy in the virtues of others. Whether you have seen them firsthand or not, take joy in innumerable virtues of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas over limitless time. By delighting in your own virtues and those of others, you will keep from regretting your own virtues. Let me read that again here. By delighting in your own virtues and those of others, you will keep from regretting your own virtuous deeds, wishing you had not given to a charity because it caused your bank account to dwindle, for example. I think he's saying that delight in this. Oh, I see what you're saying. He's saying, yeah, we might have done a virtuous thing and then regret it later. Because, maybe I could have used that money differently. And you will also avoid becoming jealous of the good deeds of others or competitive with them. So this really ties into the immeasurable attitude of empathetic joy, really having joy for the virtues of others, but this really includes yourself, to celebrate the virtuous activity. And it's not like pride. It's just honoring that I am watering the seeds of awakening for the benefit of others. And this is incredible that I've been able to do this. And so he's pointing out the difference between sort of a prideful stance and the benefits of celebrating my own virtue. Because, we'll as we recognize its value, we're not going to regret those types of things later. Really powerful comment there. All right, we made it. Let's see how we do here. So ask the Buddhists, number 5, who have become completely enlightened but have not yet engaged in teaching spiritual doctrine, to do so on behalf of all who suffer. So this is the request. Teachings come from request. That's how we get teachings, we request them. Teachers can't teach unless they're requested. Buddhas remain because we create conditions, because we make requests. So really making that request, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, to please remain and to teach. And there's many who have not yet come and taught, so all of them. And then pray to the Buddhas not to pass away. This is a specific request for Buddhas who have taught and are nearing the time to pass away, 5 and 6. Really requesting the teachings to remain for the benefit of all sentient beings, for all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to come, remain, stay until all are awakened, and really as heartfelt as we can. And the dedication, that's where we'll wrap tonight, because we're already at time. Dedication, rather than directing your practice of previous steps towards temporary happiness and comfort in this lifetime or the next, or merely becoming liberated from cyclic existence, dedicate towards attaining highest enlightenment. Think, may these acts help me attain full and perfect enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And so that's our bodhicitta aspiration. That's our bodhisattva commitment. And so here in this dedication, the analogy is they use, as he's pointing out, merely, I've got some good karma, some merit here, as that will get used up. But if I dedicate it, I'm putting it in the ocean of merit for the benefit of all sentient beings, where, it doesn't, like a drop will dry up, but a drop in the ocean is going to be sustained, and that will carry this merit with us through lifetimes. And so we're dedicating it in this ocean of merit that will stay for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so 2 practices that are really important are setting your motivation at the beginning of things and dedicating at the end. We set our motivation at the start, we dedicate at the end. Every Dharma teaching, but this can be engaged throughout the day in lots of activities that we do, cultivating merit and dedicating. So this is a really sweet practice, and he outlines it very well. Good practice that we'll use for this week. The next thing is the offering of the mandala, which we don't have time to unpack properly, maybe. Imagine the entire world system has been purified, offered. Yeah, so we'll touch base on that next week, because there's a richness to that mandala offering. But you can do this here, so we'll just read it and then we'll do the whole practice. Then imagine the entire world system, everything has been purified, and it's filled, it's pure, and offered with all conceivable marvels to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This special offering nourishes compassion by offering all things desirable to those who teach it. So it's really taking all of the world and seeing it purified and filled with virtue, and all the goodness cleansed and offered to these Buddhas. And so it's a nice way to close. So this will be a practice we can engage in this week. And I'm going to pause there. And we're a bit at time, but just in case anyone had a particular question, I'm happy to give a few more minutes. The thing that I want to comment is, I think some people, we look at ritual, some people are, that's ritual or that's culture or this. And we want to understand what the benefits are of doing certain things. And so you can see the richness. Imagine where your mind would be at, having visualized all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, having brought to mind their qualities, having made these offerings, having purified our unwholesome activities, have rejoiced in these virtues, have connected with our Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, offered all of this, and then sat down to meditate. Where would our mind be at the end of that, with all of that, all of those potentials watered? And that's what we're doing. We're watering these potentials. So that's why, people have an altars that bring their mind to such a virtuous state. So these are incredibly valuable assets in watering these potentials to awaken. And there's a beautiful richness to them. And just engaging with that and bringing the Buddhas to mind, virtuous activity, really transformative. And so that's what Holiness is saying, is these are some of the things that we can do to start watering those potentials that can ripen. So really sweet practice. And like I say, if you go to the community, our daily practice, which we offer every day and get recorded, we also have booklets, and we'll have the 7 limb in there as well, but just one line. So this is what I'll copy because he gives such a nice, pure description. That's good for us. Okay, well, looks like we're all good. And so let's take a little time to dedicate incredible merit we've accumulated here together. Let us dedicate the merit and wisdom that we've accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes. May we dedicate this for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be free of suffering. May they find their liberation. And may we be able to use the merit and wisdom accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes to water the potentials of awakening, to clear away the obscurations that prevent us from achieving full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. May we also dedicate the merit and wisdom accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes for the long life of all spiritual teachers, of all spiritual traditions who are authentically teaching a path of no more suffering. May they live long, may their teachings flourish, and a special dedication for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. May he live long, may his teachings touch all of our mind streams, water seeds of compassion, wisdom in all of us.